This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I am editor-in-chief of the Charlotte Post. And with me today is Cameron Williams, who is staff reporter at the Post. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025. The year is half over. Man, it just seemed like yesterday, guzzling down a nice cold bottle of champagne. But that's where we are. You get older, time flies by faster. What's up?
Can't fly by much faster because, man, oh man, it's been an eventful year already between ACC tournament in March and obviously the start of spring football and then the PGA Championship. It's just all cluttered together, and now here we are. It's June, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals. I know that doesn't pertain to Charlotte per se, but
it never will.
It probably won't for a while, at least in the case of the NBA Finals. But OTAs. Mm-hmm. If you want to, I guess we can start with the Panthers today because
why not?
Football is year round.
Mm-hmm.
Our colleague Jeff Hawkins has done several unique and interesting stories on some faces that, well, other than Xavier Legette, two other faces that aren't really in the mainstream, if you will. So I'll let you take it from here. Shamar Bartholomew and Trevin Wallace, two guys that if Jeff Hawkins wouldn't have reported on them, I don't know if we'd have heard about them.
Well, that's because they're fairly new. Both are into their second season with the Panthers. Wallace was a draft pick last year, played inside linebacker, and he was part of that turnstile at the position last year because it was just decimated by injury. Shaq Thompson and a bunch of other folks, and Wallace was one of them. His season was cut short after he stepped into the starting lineup after Thompson went down. So he started 7 games, I guess it was, something like that. Shoulder injury took him out, but he showed a lot of promise. And with Thompson allowed to walk in free agency, one would think that someone like Trevin Wallace, who is familiar with the defense and has a really high upside, I think, in terms of potential, would get a shot at starting this year. But Dave Canales, being a coach, would quickly point out to anybody who's listening, well, it won't be given to him. Mm-hmm. And so you take that for what it's worth.
Coach speak.
Very much so. And in terms of Bartholomew, he was undrafted as a rookie last year, signed with the Jets. He caught Canales' eye and the coaching staff's eye last year when the Panthers and Jets had the public scrimmages before a preseason game. And once the Jets cut him, Carolina was right there in front of the line because of its less than stellar record the season before to snatch him up off waivers. And he played limited minutes last year, mostly at the end of the season. And he'll have an opportunity because it's not like the Panthers are swimming in cornerbacks. Yeah. J.C. Horn obviously is the main guy, signed an extension in the offseason. Their starting group is fairly much entrenched, but depth after that group is a concern. And do you have enough in-house to make that work? There's still a school of thought out there that says you don't really know, so you may want to try to look at some veteran players who may get cut or are still available as free agents, or even swing a trade. So opportunities are there for the younger players, and the good news is the coach is fairly new on the job too, so it's not like he's going to swing for the fences in terms of trying to grab up all the veteran talent he can. He's going to try to do some things with lower cost, high upside young players.
Well, to that point, and coach speak aside, it's good to see Canales have a little bit more of an open mind. Like, he's not going in with a set amount of guys that he's like, okay, this is what I want. He's open to seeing new faces, to letting some guys spread their wings a little bit. And it is of note, Bartholomew did grab an interception off Andy Dalton. So that, I guess, bodes well for him. But one interesting part in Jeff's story that I really liked, can the Panthers improve the pass rush to help the defensive backs out? Well, I know it's one thing we harped on before the draft. Let's get some defensive linemen, get some linebackers that are more edge rushing style linebackers. I mean, let's help the secondary, but I think we're going to get a receiver with our first round pick.
I still think that it was a great move by the Panthers to get Teteroa McMillan. And I'm learning how to pronounce his first name, so I'm patting myself on the back for that one.
As a Charlotte media member, I hope dearly he proves me wrong. But I just don't know. The guy comes from Arizona, where he was far and above the guy. Would he have been the number one option out of Texas? I know we've talked about this before, but would he have been the number one option at an Oregon, or Ohio State, or an Alabama? I can promise you he wouldn't have been number one over Ryan Williams.
But the point of it is, he's 6'4", great athlete, catch radius, great hands. Who's to say that he wouldn't have been number one at Texas or Ohio State or Alabama or any place else? There's a reason why he was taken 8th overall. He was the top-rated receiver in his class.
It's the Panthers. That's why he was taken number one or first 8th overall.
Well, at some point in time, somebody was going to take him. He was going to be first off the board in terms of receivers. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. But you can argue is, okay, if your argument is you need defensive help so badly until you can overlook the offense. Well, let's think about that now, because it's not like the Panthers were putting up huge numbers last year.
No. My point being with the whole Teteroa McMillan thing, and I know we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but
we will.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. All these other guys that fell down the draft board because they were splitting snaps. Well, not splitting snaps, but the quarterbacks were throwing to other guys too. Tez Johnson at Oregon. They had Evan Stewart on the other side. I mean, I just don't think Tet's numbers would have been so highly inflated if there was another dog on his team.
Well, you can also make the counterpoint. Defenses knew what was coming. If Arizona was going to throw, that's the guy they're going to go to. So you are automatically thinking, well, let's roll our defense that way, doubling.
Much weaker
whatever.
league, too.
Well, and just see what happens there. So you can make that argument, but on the other hand, if you know that is the main guy, you're game planning for him all the time. And this is the Big 12 now, so I will allow that they aren't necessarily playing the best defense in that conference.
Any defense.
But all you can do is play what's in front of you. He succeeded, parlayed that into a top 10 status with the Panthers. And there's nothing you can do to unwrap that package. So it is there.
Yeah, and I mean, to kind of put a bow on this Panthers stuff, OTAs run what through the
next
end
week.
Of, the end, okay, so the end of next week. Then it'll be what, mini camp again or something?
Yeah, and then off to training camp.
And then finally off to training camp. Well, I don't know if we've learned enough about them yet to really make a judgment call on what their season's going to look like. And I mean, sure, there's going to be cuts galore before then. I just want to see steady improvement. What that looks like, kind of TBD. They can't go out there and lay an egg for the 18th consecutive season. There's got to be some progress. And I think Canales has been given plenty of rope to this point. If there's no improvements, give him the Frank Reich. Give him the boot. Give him the as our colleague at the Triangle Tribune, Alex Bass, likes to say, give him the boot.
The other side of this argument, and I love countering stuff.
I can tell.
Is what has that gotten this program previously? When you are talking about, well, if you're not showing any results, get him out of there. This is part of what's wrong with a lot of teams now. You don't have patience to let stuff unwind organically. Think about it. Dave Canales comes in last year and manages to get 5 wins. Now, granted, that is no great shakes. But if you compare it to what was there a season before, that's a marked improvement. You've got Bryce Young that you sat down 3 weeks into the season. You are not necessarily going to beat up on anybody with the worst defense in NFL history.
Nope.
And you still managed to win 5 games. It can only go up from there. And so I think, if nothing else, a season of coaching has helped Canales understand the rhythm and the flow of the NFL in terms of, well, this is how it needs to go. Because there's a big difference between being a position coach, a coordinator, which he wasn't for very long in Tampa Bay, and running the whole thing. So I think one of the biggest mistakes he made last year was not putting his first string folks out there for preseason games. You know, you're trying to protect the quarterback and you just want to see what everybody else can do. Well, what about the continuity that you need to have for a successful season? Yeah. I think that was a critical mistake, and that's why they got off to such a slow start. And I think that he now understands that part of it better, which, at least in theory, is something that will better position him to build that roster, get a good look at everybody, and figure out this is how our defense and our offense should mesh and put us in a better position at the start of the season. Because if you go off and win your last 8 games of the season, but you lose the first 9, then guess what? Chances are you're still going to miss the playoffs. So you need to be able to have a good start in order to set yourself up for a decent finish.
I'm one of the ones that, personally, I don't think they should have ever let Ron Rivera go. But,
well, yeah. But again, that set them up for the situation that they're in now. Mm-hmm. And I think at the very top, perhaps some lessons were learned.
I know a lot of old head Charlotte people, they're saying, like, man, they should have never got rid of Fox.
No, it was the right time. That was the right time.
Well, here's your gambling tip of the day with quadruple P.
You're trying to reappropriate, are you?
I got that P back.
Go ahead.
Over under set at 6.5 wins. I'll throw this one to you. Over under 6.5 wins. That's what it's set at right now, the line. Minus 140 for over 6.5, which means that's slightly favored. Plus 120 for under 6.5.
Over.
I'm picking over too, simply because of the fact that they have an easy schedule. Panthers,
relatively easy based on last year's stuff.
They got an easy schedule. If they don't achieve over 6.5 wins, get them out of there. That's your gambling tip of the day.
Okay. All right. So if you're saying over 6, what is the number?
I think it's right at 7. And I know that's going to...
That's a two-win improvement.
Well, but...
Is that enough, though? Is that showing the progression? Or do you want an even bigger progression in year 2 under Dave Canales?
I think that's showing good enough progression. I mean, we were talking... Okay, Jacksonville, winnable. Arizona, winnable. Mm-hmm. Atlanta, you know how those games go. Can go either way.
Yeah, you can split.
New England's one of those ones where... I mean, I think the Panthers can win, but
Yep.
it's in New England.
It doesn't really matter.
He's one of those home field guys, doesn't matter kind of guy. I don't know. I think that one's toss up. Miami, Dallas. I don't see them winning those two games. Well,
Dallas new coach.
as a Cowboys fan, I hope we tank. I hope we tank so bad we get a good pick. We somehow keep CD and Mike and get that coach out of there. Whatever Jerry was doing, he was on that Acapulco artichoke.
Oh boy.
At any rate.
So Brian Schottenheimer, you don't have any confidence in?
No, none. Zero. Okay. Moving on down the Panthers schedule. Buffalo.
Nope.
Green Bay.
Nope.
But New Orleans.
Yep.
Winnable. Atlanta, again, at Atlanta. Kind of. San Francisco, depending on health, of course. But San Francisco is tough when they're healthy. The Rams, bye week. New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Seattle, Tampa Bay. I see 7 wins. Okay, Jacksonville, Arizona. One of the Atlanta games.
Both of the New Orleans games.
Okay, well they should. They got crushed week 1 last year. So okay,
Quarterback
I'm
issues.
going to give them one of those games. New York Jets.
Yeah.
Seattle. Okay, I'm seeing 6 or 7. That's why Vegas does what they do. They put it right about that number because they look at these schedules and do the same kind of thing. So, over 6.5, hope and pray.
Well, I would think that if they can get to 8, good, and then by the 3rd season under Canales, yeah.
I'll make a side bet with you right now. They're not getting 8.
Well, I'm just saying, if they get to 8, if they can get to 8, that is marked improvement.
Fair enough. All right, we have rambled about the old kitty cats way too long.
Yeah, let's talk about the other football now. And the Carolina Ascent, team that in the first season of the USL Super League went out and won the Players' Shield for the best record in the league. They are the top seed in the playoffs, and they have a semifinals date against Fort Lauderdale Sunday at Memorial Stadium. Pretty good season so far.
Well, I mean, you can't be higher than first.
No, you can't. And it's been a success on the field or pitch, for those of you who love soccer jargon. But the championship is no guarantee because Fort Lauderdale has played Carolina even through the regular season. They split, and this is the one team in Charlotte that's actually exceeded expectation.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some trends as the season progressed, and Carolina scored more goals per game on average since about February than they were early in the season. It was a lot for the Ascent to score a goal, and a lot of their wins were to nil, like 1-0 or even 1-1 draws. So what I'm seeing is offensive improvement, at least trend-wise. I think if you can get to 3 goals, playoff soccer is totally different. In their most recent matchup with Fort Lauderdale, they won 5-2. So, I mean, if you can get to 3 goals, I think that, I don't want to say guarantees because nothing's guaranteed in sport, but it probably guarantees a win.
Well, and the other side of it is this is a team of two-way players. They attack as a group, they defend as a group, and it's hard to beat a team that plays that way. Mia Corvin was the second leading scorer in USL Super League. And according to our colleague Steve Goldberg, is going to be in the running for most valuable player. They just have been really good for most of the season. You know, there was a little bit of a lull there in the first half of the season where they went on a little bit of a dry spell. But Philip Poole has done a really good job of coaching his team up and keeping them engaged throughout the season. And if they can win on Sunday, it sets them up for another home date for the championship round. And I would really like to see them advance, and how Charlotte would react to that. I mean, because it's soccer, it's women's soccer specifically, and it's a championship eligible team. Would Charlotte turn out to pack Memorial Stadium to watch history potentially being made?
Pack it out? No.
Well, first things first.
Get there.
Yeah. And it's the semifinals Sunday. So why not pack that one and show what you're capable of?
It's, if you want my honesty, it shows how behind or darn right chauvinistic this country is, because they don't show out for women's sports. Quite frankly, it's why the Sting left. I wish the Sting would come back.
Me too. But that's not likely to happen either.
You have to go to games. I mean, these teams survive off money just like we all do.
Yep.
So you just have to show out. I mean, you have to show up because these people, you had to sell tickets to keep a team, and I don't see them selling out. I wish they would, because quite frankly, what else does Charlotte have to cheer for right now?
I think that they were
Checkers hockey.
Well, yeah,
they're playing for the Calder Cup.
Yeah, but I think that you do make a good point in terms of the acceptance of women's sports. Now, women are becoming more engaged in women's sports, which I think is really the key to the whole thing.
Still got to get men involved with it, though.
Yeah. I think that's a nice to have. The women, I think you really do need to have, because if nothing else, it shows that representation where little girls can aspire. If what is the saying? If you can see it, you can be it.
Yeah.
So for those little girls who are athletically inclined or think that it's cool to actually have something to shoot for, I mean, this is a pretty big deal. And can you get those kids out there? And inevitably, they're folks.
Yeah.
So you start with the young people, and there's going to be certain fossils that you're never going to get out there. That's just the way it is. So the group that you can target and be attractive to, those are the people that you need. And I think that it's not too huge of a stretch to try to get Memorial Stadium filled. I mean, it's 10,500 capacity.
I'd be interested to see their attendance in a given match. And I know playoffs, you would think it would fill out a little bit more, but that's a big ask.
Yeah. and it's also the first season. So there may be some hesitancy from some people. Well, will it even be around before I commit to it on a long-term basis? I get all that stuff. But they're playing winning soccer.
Yeah.
And it's the highest level of professional women's soccer in this country. USL Super League, NWSL, they're both Division I in terms of women's soccer. So it's high caliber stuff. And by most estimates, they've had a very successful season in terms of the business as well as the performance. But I think that capping the season with raucous capacity crowds really puts a strong bow on what Charlotte really is about in terms of soccer.
Fair enough. I'm going with a 2-0 win. They're going to lock them up.
Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they're going to win the championship.
Ah.
I'm getting my P back somehow. He won't give it to me.
Well, if the Ascent can pull that off, perhaps you will. We'll see about that.
So, for our last topic of the day, real quick, gonna talk about the CIAA staying in Baltimore.
Yeah, the basketball tournament last week. Word got out that the CIAA was going to stick with Baltimore for another 3-year run, 27, 28, and 29. Charlotte put in a bid that would have pushed its hosting duties back a year because they had a conflict at Spectrum Center. So maybe, just maybe, this is a sign that Charlotte is not as interested or as committed to bringing the CIAA basketball tournament back, at least for the near term.
Well, I can tell you this. They're never going to be as committed to bringing the CIAA back as they would, say, to keep the ACC tournament there.
Yeah.
It's all about the money.
Well, and there was a time when the CIAA, when the tournament was not only in the ACC's neighborhood, it might have exceeded it. But that was
a
long time ago. That was in the early part of the 21st century. Things have changed for the CIAA as well as for Charlotte and its relationship with sports events. When Charlotte first got the CIAA in 2006, there were massive gaps in the hospitality industry during that time of the year. You're talking about late February, early March. It's cold and kind of dreary, and Charlotte was really dry. CIAA comes along, and Charlotte had finally landed the tournament because they'd been through multiple cycles when they just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
CIAA passed on them for Raleigh, passed on Charlotte for Winston-Salem. And they said, well, you know what? Charlotte has finally put something together where we feel comfortable going. So let's go. They stuck around for 15 years. And when the CIAA was at its strongest, they were packing out Spectrum Center. People were showing up not only from across the region, people were showing up from across the country.
Yeah.
CIAA tournament was a happening thing like it had always been. But in the last decade or so, it has fallen off. And I don't think that that's any secret to anybody who has gone to the CIAA tournament in the last decade. The attendance fell off in Charlotte. They put some of the games out at Bojangles Coliseum, and they weren't packing that out either. They go off to Baltimore. They're not packing out CFG Arena. I think that's the name of the arena there that hosts the tournament. The CIAA tournament is not what it used to be. And so if you're Charlotte and the CIAA has fallen off, meanwhile, you've got these other things that are going on, like with the ACC. And ironically, both of these conferences are headquartered in Charlotte. ACC, if you're an old timer, it's not what it used to be, but it's still pretty stout. And it has a higher national profile. You can get some really good crowds in there. And now you've got, 17, 18 schools? I lost count after all that expansion. So people are showing up for the ACC. And Charlotte, being Charlotte, it's going to chase those dollars. And you cannot justify, especially when you throw in that the Hornets are part of this equation as well. Do you want to really leave your place behind for a week for less than capacity crowds with the CIAA as opposed to the ACC bringing in bigger bang for your buck? I know some people may not necessarily want to hear that, but that's the God's honest truth. And if you're making a purely business decision, the CIAA did what it had to do, and Charlotte is going to do what it had to do. And as a result of that, CIAA may be it's going to be at least 3 more years and probably longer, because if things are trending the way that they are and that it stays on that path, there'll be more things coming along. The NCAA is going to come along and they're going to put stuff out there in March. The ACC is not going to go away. And if the Hornets can ever pull themselves together, who knows what they might come up with. And so the bottom line is those tourism dollars are going to be spoken for. Those facilities are going to be spoken for. And if your product is not capable of competing at that level to bring in that money, the city leaders would be stupid, I think, to just say, well, yeah, we'll squeeze you in here and put you on the same level as these other folks, because it's not the same. Bojangles Coliseum, great, but the CIAA doesn't want to go there. But you're not packing that facility. And so I can see why Baltimore benefits, because Charlotte and CIAA are not seeing eye to eye on the worth and the value of the CIAA tournament. Now, don't get me wrong, CIAA can still bring in money, but can they bring in that kind of loot is the ultimate question.
I guess my answer is I don't think so. You heard it best from him. You can tell he's passionate about it. Oh, okay. Quick general thought. Mm-hmm. Until the interest level, I think, reaches what it may have used to have been when I was a little baby, or knee high to a hole in the ground in CIAA basketball, I don't see it ever bringing in that kind of revenue. Not to that level, to where they were rivaling the ACC or some of these other conferences. So yeah, there's my short answer. I don't think that's something that's going to happen within 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, well, because at one point in time, the CIAA was proud to say it's the 3rd biggest basketball tournament in America, behind the ACC and the Big East. 2 massive brands.
Yeah.
And the CIAA was in their neighborhood. It is not now. And that is the equation. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as far as Division II tournaments go, it is best by a country mile.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're talking about the kind of money that Charlotte's interested in, no.
Yeah.
No, it is no longer there. It is no longer that tournament.
Fair enough. Let's put a bow on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to. What are we looking forward to? It's June the 5th, like we said. I personally am looking forward to, it was a great Stanley Cup Game 1 last night. Edmonton won in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was at the gym watching, and then Florida takes a commanding lead in that game, and I'm like, Edmonton's got their work cut out for them. By the time I get home, get all showered up and ready for bed, I'm like, man, this game's close. Let me go flip it on real quick. They went to overtime. Edmonton wins in overtime. So more Stanley Cup, and the start of the NBA Finals tonight. Something that Charlotte's going to be in next year. I'm just kidding.
Only if the NBA decides to shift all the games to Charlotte. But that's not going to happen either. For me, I am really intrigued by Carolina Ascent.
There you go. Well,
I mean, it's a Sunday too. Is that a mark of genius to put it on a Sunday?
Well, I know. Well, if they make the championship, why don't we all go?
Why not?
I think it'd be fun. I mean, Lord knows we're not going to see many championships around these parts. At least let me go to one before I'm dead.
Well, I mean, but we're all day to day, so who's to say?
That's true, but I don't know when that championship would be, but I'm sure it'd be sometime next week. Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, spend a weekend with the Ascent.
And with Goldberg.
Oh, my. Well, yeah, that would be all kinds of colorful.
But at any rate, that's what I'm looking forward to. That's what he's looking forward to. I'll break us down.
Bring it on down.
The journalism for y'all to consume is free online, not free for us to produce. I'll give us the whole spiel. Go to our website, thecharlottepost.com. Make sure you type in thecharlottepost.com. I typed in charlottepost.com earlier. Whatever in the world came up, don't do that. At any rate, thecharlottepost.com. Click on donate. Click on subscribe. We'll take your money however we can get it, because let's face it, we all need money these days. If you like what you see, subscribe to our newsletter. It comes out every Thursday. Every Thursday. I got my stuff in there. Good Lord knows I have a lot of sports content that comes out. Herb's content, Jeff Hawkins, Steve Goldberg, all of our stringers that do stuff for sports. You don't want to miss that. So I guess that means from everyone here in rainy, beautiful Dorado, I'm Cam, and that's Herb. Thanks for watching and listening and subscribing.